Welcome to this lovely Friday here. And I'm here today to talk about embodiment and why it's so important for us, how it can help us to stay more grounded, how it can help us with our mental health, and how it can give us more resilience and to help us to manage our emotions. So when we're in our bodies, well, we all have bodies, right? So people are thinking, well, we have bodies. What is it exactly about being embodied? If we have a body, aren't we in our bodies? Well, a lot of the time, no, because if we were in our bodies, we wouldn't crash around. When you have a day when you're having an off day and you're just not in your flow, you're not being focused and staying grounded with what you have to do. And that's when your mind is elsewhere. You're not in your body. That's when you can have accidents. That's when you can crash into things. Have you ever found when you're really not, perfect example, when you're drunk? If you're drunk, you're not really in your body anymore. Something's kind of got disconnected. That's why you can fall around. You might wake up the next day, find you've got bruises, or you've done something that you hadn't been fully conscious of. So when we're in our bodies, we have to drop all of that really hectic activity that's in our frontal cortex. We drop that activity, and immediately our brainwaves start to slow down and get a bit more calm, away from that hectic beta brain, which absolutely has its place. When we want to get things done, we need to have our beta brain activity going on. But when we drop into our bodies, and one way, a basic, most fundamental way that it can help us to get into our bodies is through our breath. But I'm going to return to that later. So when we're away from the busy frontal cortex of our brain, we start to sense into our physical body. Now, if you are feeling really anxious and stressed, or if you're going into a social situation where you're feeling nervous, what is the tendency that you might do? You might go to the bar and get a drink, right? We've all done it. If you're with someone, a friend or a partner, you might hold on to them, okay? If you see someone you recognize, you'll go over to them perhaps, because immediately the nervous system starts to calm down. You're not feeling so alienated, you're not feeling so disconnected, you're getting a sense of connection. Now, when you think about it, when you get this sense of connection, it's normally in a bodily felt way, okay? If you get closer to your friend or your partner, you might even hold on to them. Or if you go to the bar to get a drink, you're doing something physical with your body. And a way that you can also do it that's quite instantaneous, if you're feeling really nervous, or if your mind is starting to go out of control, okay, is you can just pinch yourself, okay? If you just think about it, try it now. If you hold your arms and you just squeeze, and you feel that pressure going into your arms, straight away you can sense the pressure from your head dissipating. Okay? And that's why with somatic movement, hi there, and that's why if you want to drop a comment at any point, please do. That's why somatic practices like somatic experiencing, trauma release, which is often with shaking and trembling, it's all in the body. So that's people with trauma. I'm trauma informed, but I would not call myself a trauma expert because that can go very deep. If you have trauma, it's never just in here, it's in your body. Okay, and that's why somatic practices and getting into your body is so powerful for when you have had these traumatic experiences. But if you're just going into a social situation where you feel nervous, and that happens a lot, right? Especially work situations, a party where you don't know you don't know if you'll know anyone. The first thing that will change, you will notice, is your breath. Your breathing will start to change. It might become less calm. It might become a bit irregular. So that's one way you can immediately start to calm, is slowing and calming your breath, taking deeper breaths. And by deeper breaths, it's not that inhale, military, raise your shoulders up and get it all into your chest. That's not relaxing. The inhalation has to go down through your body, all the way down into your abdomen. Now, when we say belly breath, our breath doesn't actually go all the way into our belly, right? Because, you might wonder, our breath is in our respiratory system, which is in our lungs. What happens is that when you breathe deeply and the lungs start to expand with your breath, it pushes the diaphragm, which is normally a curved dome, flat. And then this diaphragm pushes our belly out. So when we say take a deep belly breath, it means that we fill all of our lungs. The abdomen, the diaphragm comes down, and then the belly comes out. And a quick aside, if we don't breathe properly, which most of us don't, there is around sometimes 10% of stale air that sits in the bottom of our lungs that doesn't get changed. Pretty gross, right? It doesn't get refreshed. We don't get fresh oxygen coming all the way into our breathing apparatus. So that is one immediate way to pacify our nervous system and get more embodied, is through our breath. Our breath is our most immediate gateway to connection to the outside, connection to ourselves, connection to our whole physiology. When we breathe properly, that breath actually enters into all those trillions of cells in our body. Okay, every breath can release toxins. We release not just carbon dioxide, we actually release toxins from our cells. The breath, the movement of our breath massages all the cells so that the fluids start to move around, and it starts to shift anything that's stuck and tight there. And also, it slows down our brain waves, okay? So that it immediately, by slowing our breath, we will drop from the sympathetic more into the parasympathetic, okay? So that's the first thing. And the second one was by physically pinching, holding, and really holding onto our bones, okay? It's been shown, it's been proven that our bones actually hold fear. We hold the fear in our bones. And so when we connect to our physical bones, okay, it's very grounding. Now, to get to the bones, we have several layers in our body. We have our muscles, we have our fascia, and all these can send different signals. Our fascia is a whole electrical system of our body. And so that's why when we actually go and give ourselves enough pressure that it gets into our bones, immediately this grounds us. Okay, our bones and our minerals of our bones are connected to the same ground and the minerals in the earth. So another way to get embodied is to take your shoes and socks off, go out and be barefoot on the earth, because that electrical signal, because in the base of our soul, in the bottom of this part of our soul here, right in the center, that's also the same line as our diaphragm, the base of the ball of our foot. In the center of there is a chakra center, the energetic center that connects to the earth. Okay, so the magnetic frequency of the earth connects to the magnetic frequency of us through our feet, and that will energize and regulate our whole physiology. Okay, so when we're in our bodies, that means we've dropped out of here, we've come into our bodies more. And to really get into our bodies, we really need to sense with all of our senses. So we have the obvious five senses of our sight and our smell and our taste and our hearing and our touch. Some academic books or theories, you can say there is the kinesthetic sense, the sense of moving in space, our sensory awareness. So when we're moving in space, we're sensing and feeling the environment through our bodies, okay, rather than through these senses that are all in this part of our um, body, our being, above the neck, basically. Okay, when we're in our bodies, we're not just above the neck, we're actually in our whole body. So when we're our whole body, we get a sense of our weight, we get a sense of the space that we're taking up in space in the world. And it means that we are really sensing through every sense where we are. If we're in our heads, we might be somewhere else. We're often somewhere else, in fact, right? When we're in our bodies, we have to be here in the here and now. And that's why traveling can be so good for getting us out of our heads, out of our normal head stuff, and into our bodies, because we're really in a new environment and everything comes alive, the smells, the sounds, the sights, and we have to be really conscious of where we are. India is a very interesting country for this, for being embodied, because it's full of contradictions. It can be quite paradoxical, but you have to be really in your body when you're traveling in India. Everyone's, unless you're in first class, everyone's grabbing onto you. They're very tactile. It's such a crowded country, unless you're in the mountains or you're in a temple or somewhere where there's space. There's nearly always someone around. Even if you're thinking you're in the middle of nowhere, sure enough, at some point, someone's going to appear and try and offer you a chai to buy or something. But the point is, it's such a busy, populated place that you really have to be conscious and aware of the jostling and the busyness and the people holding on to you and the bodies all close to you. It's yes, it can be quite confrontational like that, but it definitely gets you straight into your body. Right, where am I? And it's the same for our ancestors. They were in their bodies because they had to look for water, they had to look for food, they had to be careful about animals. All their senses were alive to what's happening in the jungle. And it's the same for animals. Animals have to be in their bodies. They can't get into cars to run away. if if there's some big beast coming to devour them, they're going to get straight in. Everything's going to go into full throttle into their bodies to move and charge and get out of that situation. So our ancestors, animals, all of these, and plants, they're more embodied. Mushroom, fungi, they're embodied. They have to be sensitive to the environment. Um, in our evolution, we got out of our bodies into our heads, and ended up having lots of dry theories a lot of the time, but actually not really living and experiencing in the way that we used to. Um, so our bodies have natural somatic intelligence. I mean, what is somatic intelligence? I've spoken to especially some people of the older generation, and say, "Our bodies have wisdom. How can our bodies have wisdom?" So our bodies have evolved over generations. They've evolved to adapt. So our bodies can heal when we injure ourselves. But evolution has proven how our bodies have natural intelligence. Our bodies have naturally evolved to adapt to the change in the climate. Um, a very clear example to me that really struck me was years ago. My parents, who've passed away now, they were in England for 56, my dad, 60 years. So longer in the UK than in Asia, where they were born. And when relatives from Hong Kong came to visit, I was really struck by how the complexion of my relatives was different to my parents. The complexion of my relatives were was a different color, more moist, more maybe slightly darker, more slightly sort of olivey yellow. I hate that sort of connotation, but because they've come from this very tropical climate, whereas my parents have adapted to being in the UK, and their skin was paler and the complexion was not that same kind of smooth moistness. Um, so yeah, that's probably, I think the climate here can be quite harsh, right? Especially in winter. Although in summer it's very harsh too because the sun is so intense. But in the winter the climate can be quite harsh, which means that our skin starts to get a little bit tougher, and so it looks different. And of course, our bodies also adjust to different diets. I mean, Eskimos live on mostly meat, right? And so they have special enzymes that can cope with this high protein diet, I believe. I'm not a dietitian. And then what about Italians? I mean, surely they must have developed something so that they don't have to go wheat and dairy free. Surely their bodies have some special accommodation so that they don't become lactose intolerant or wheat intolerant. Because how would they manage with their diets? Um, so, yeah, when we're in our bodies, that means we're out of here, we're out of thinking. And if we're dropping out of our thinking and we're sensing and feeling more, that must mean also that we are being more connected to the different parts of us, and most importantly, to be connected to our heart. Okay, our heart is our second brain. Our heart has a bigger electrical force field than our brain. It has so much happening, and our brain informs our head. And we know that, right? We know that so well. And that's why so many times, that's when we're in turmoil about things. Normally it's because our head is saying one thing, but our heart is saying another, right? And if our head was so superior, we wouldn't be in so much turmoil. We would just take the route of what the head says, the logical, the one that makes sense. But no, our heart gets affected, and that it affects us, and not always in a positive way. We don't always have positive emotions. But when we're in our hearts, it means if we are if we are really dropping in, so if we breathe into our hearts, really drop and sense into that place in your body. I invite you to do that. That means we have this intelligence that's emanating from here. You notice how all the thought processes drop from here and they go into here. And then suddenly we have this source of intelligence and knowing that spreads out, and it can spread out to the rest of our body. And if we're in our hearts, for a start, we're not going to be on the screen scrolling. We're not going to be looking at Instagram and how great everyone and they look, what great lives they have, how beautiful they all look with their filters. When we're here, we're in a much more of a feeling, sensing presence. And that means when we're in our hearts as well, that we're going to be less hard on ourselves. We're going to be less judgmental. If we just, for example, a clear, obvious example, perhaps we all feel we have a big fat belly, right? We don't like our bellies; they're flabby, whatever. If you're sick, if you've got a six-pack, you're lucky. But then you probably sort of stay concerned that it's staying nice and toned, right? If you have any aspect of your body that you're not happy with, okay, it's here that's saying you're not happy with it. It's here that's saying it doesn't look right, or it doesn't fit into something. It's all here. Okay, unless you have an injury or something that's disturbing you. But even then, if you're in your hearts and you think about that part of your body, your stomach works so hard for you. It digests all your food and all the nutrition for you. It expels all the things that you don't need. If you're feeling anxious here, you've got a lot worrying and you're stressed, what happens to your belly? You start to get stomach aches. You might even get IBS, which has been dubbed the second depression symptoms. It's like the modern depression is IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Okay. If you are not in here, if you're in your body, your stomach will just be happy as it is. And if you feel you have a bit of excess weight and and your stomach's a bit soft and flabby, well, guess what? Fat is a really strong and grounding and loving energetic source. And we need to have fat for our energy, to hold us, to support us, to cushion us, to regulate so that we're not too cold when it's really cold. It's insulation. Of course, I'm talking everything always in moderation. If you're seriously overweight, that's another story. But fat in itself, and the majority of us probably have little bellies that we're not happy with. There are very few of us that have such ridiculously big bellies that we can't even walk properly. That was me about to give birth. That was the only time it was that bad. It's just like, oh my God, I really now am a beached whale. But otherwise, if we just think of our bellies as our center and our home, our hearth that receives our nutrition, we're not going to be so hard on ourselves anymore. It's not going to get us down so much. It's not going to make us feel bad or nervous or upset or self-conscious anymore. And if we're in our bodies, so not only are we less judgmental of ourselves, we're going to receive another person in a more grounded way. For example, if you're in your body, you're feeling relaxed with yourself, you're feeling present, and you're probably feeling a bit more confident with yourself. Okay, you're just feeling, you're okay, I'm here, this is me, this is the space I'm taking up in the world, here I am. If you're in here about yourself, and you're concerned about how you are, when you meet another, have you noticed that sometimes some people who are perhaps very desperately needing your validation or your approval, they'll sort of lean forward, or they'll have this kind of intense kind of stare, you know, uh, and you sense that energy that's kind of a bit needy, and it's uncomfortable, right? That person's obviously not relaxed, and then you're not relaxed. Okay, it's like, whoa, you're in my space. Okay, when you're grounded and present within yourself, you don't need to get someone's attention like that. You don't need to be too close or grasp. You can just stand at a comfortable distance, say what you say, and sometimes, often, that is far more powerful. So perhaps I should end this by saying, if you haven't joined up for my free course, I have a free course. I'm taking off the free page soon. It's called Embody. It's a mini course drip fed over 4 days. Every day you get a little video with a different practice to help you get into your body. It was filmed outdoors. It's fun. It's got music, and it's very worth it for free. That's why I'm going to take it off there. I'm going to put other stuff on. I just want to change things. I'm going to create some new guided movement, somatic exercise journeys, and some movement journeys with music. So they're going to go onto my free page afterwards. So keep updated, keep connected. The link for the Embody course is on the link below on this video, I believe. And also I am going to be launching my signature program, Roots and Wings, again. Well, again, as in I'm relaunching it in a new way, with new goodies in it, new extra things to help keep you on track. And the first module is grounding. Okay, it's like base chakra, grounding. If we don't have our ground, we can't go anywhere. It's the first level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs in modern psychology. It's part of the 5 wheels of psychology. It's, if we don't have our grounding, we don't have anything. We need to have our roots. When we have our roots, then we can rise and we can fly. So the first module of my signature program, Roots and Wings, is grounding. That's what I'm going to talk about in next time's live and in the next blog. And I'm going to be opening up enrollment for that soon. So stay connected. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great day. And whatever's going on for you, just take some deep breaths and just let it all go down through your body and into the earth. Okay? We came from the earth. We're going to go back to the earth. We're only here on this planet for a certain amount of time. And with the way the world's been going, we really don't know how long we have, what's going to happen. How many of us have experienced people close to us leaving this plane? I certainly have, and I know others have as well. There's so much going on that we just have to sometimes just remember to breathe, check in with ourselves, and enjoy to be here and now in the moment. Thanks for joining me. Sending all the love. See you again.